Greetings everyone, and welcome to another episode of Battle Replay on the channel. This is Tactical Lich here, and yes, today we'll be seeing Franz on foot, just the man himself and his hammer, standing on the battlefield with his fellow soldiers, alongside with his warrior priest companion. These guys are going to smash some skulls today, living true to the name of his hammer, Galmaraz, the Skull Splitter. The battle is between Skaven and the Empire. Empire led by yours truly, with a front line of swordsmen, with some archers at the back, more swordsmen Sigmar Sons variant, and a lot of spearmen with shields. Cavalry-wise, we have some Empire Knights at the back line, just protecting any incoming mobile threat. Artillery, great cannons, and Sunmaker, devastating artillery. Leader, two-foot hammer characters. And warrior priest with all the buffs on him, even bring Scroll of Shielding and Franz himself. So that's basically it for Empire. Let's look at the Skavens. A front line of Skaven slaves bring a Plague Priest with a bunch of summons, Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, artillery-wise, Avalanche Mortars, and Nantibobo Sharpshooter, protected by some Red Ogres. Also, another Storm Vermin at the back, just giving it a little bit more sturdy backbone. But here comes the Skaven sneaky schemes. Death Runners, just 3 of them in the trees, just hiding, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And here we have the deadly combo, Assassin and the Death Master Snitch. These guys can just waiting for the perfect moment to cut off the head of Empire, possibly assassinating Franz and just killing off the leadership of the Empire army. So, let's get a battle going. So the battle started off with Skaven pushing forward, realizing the Sunmaker and the Great Cannons are outranging his artillery. So yeah, basically trying to get their units into firing range and counter shooting. But that is not an easy task, as the Sunmaker and the Great Cannons are firing in. The Great Cannons already picking off some models from the Avalanche Mortars, and the Sunmaker just blasting these Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers in the face. But this is actually a really bad target because they're not really doing the damage they should be doing, simply because, well, Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers have 70% of fire resistance. And guess what? Sunmakers do fire damage. So a lot of that damage is negated by the resistance from the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers. Not the most effective use of the ammo. As for the Vanguard forces, just still stalking inside the tree lines, waiting for the better opportunity to pounce on the Empire army. Over here, Empire Knights have just left their position, trying to go around this impassable terrain and go straight for these Avalanche Mortars to shut them down. As you can see, even down to 6 models, they're still doing some disgusting damage on these swordsmen. So yeah, over here, the Death Runners finally show their face and going straight for the Spearmen, but with the Empire Knights counter-charging downhill straight into the backs of these Death Runners, they will be trampled to dust. But over here, my opponent did a really good job just sneaking these Death Runners through the lines of the Empire, going through the gap and going straight onto these Sunmakers, silencing the artillery. And with the great melee stats of these guys, they will be able to clean up the artillery crew. And after cleaning this up, they'll go on to the second, as I was very slow to react with this Spearman. Over here, the major engagement has started. Death Runners, Clan Red Summons have gone down. The whole Skaven leadership are just charging into these archers that I failed to protect. Sigmar Sons are behind the line, waiting for engagement. And right now, yes, the Assassins are going straight for Emperor. For Franz, the Emperor. But as the Emperor of the Empire, he will not falter. Standing against these 2 assassins, he holds firm. And with all the buffs now popped, it's getting a little messy in here, as you can see all the effects going on. But now, Franz is adamantly holding his ground, swinging his mighty hammer, beating back the Skaven assault. And thankfully, the Warrior Priest is nearby to support, giving him a whooping 44% ward save. Yes, a 44% ward save. Scroll of Shooting plus Shoot of Faith combined, each providing him 22% ward save, allowing him to negate basically half the damage from Snitch and Assassin. And with all the buffs, Right Line Rune Fang, Hammer of Sigmar, giving him a massive melee attack boost, that also negated the Rival Height Talisman that gives him a 40 melee attack debuff. So even all that Skaven debuff going on right now, Franz is still going to be fighting hard against the Skaven assassins. And yeah, he's actually doing a pretty good job tanking those damage and beating them back as well. But with all the leadership going down into this blob right here, trying to snipe each other's leadership out, everything was a little bit lacking in terms of reaction from me. Over here, some dollars below broke off some Skaven Slave Spears and Death Runners, did some pretty good damage to them, but I also left my Jade Wizard unprotected, and now these 90 Booble Sharpshooter is firing into Jade Wizard, taking him chunks of health from them, but thankfully these Empire Knights have cleaned up the Avalanche Mortars and should be now whipping around to go deal with these nasty snipers from the Skavens. So yeah, let's go back to normal speed now. And the Clan Rats are almost disappearing. They're down to half health anyway, so shouldn't be a big problem here. And now despite using that Beyblade ability to blend down some swordsmen, Deathmaster Snitch is still surrounded, along with his companion Assassin. And with these guys isolated and Sigmar Sons coming in for a relief force, the Hammer characters can now surround Deathmaster and start hammering him. Oh wait, they're probably surrounding the Assassins first. And yep, they're shortly moving on towards the Deathmaster Snitch. But a good job from my opponent using the Plague spell really well. Early he also did some pretty good damage on these really tired Empire Knights. And now a second Plague spell dropping, destroying the blob of swordsmen. And along with the Empire Knights who just charged in. But unfortunately, that's not enough to save Deathmaster Snitch, as he is now beaten back by two Hammer characters and will be shortly escorted off the battlefield by these Empire Knights, who are very low but barely manage to hang on to their leadership, and now just pushing him off. As for the overall battlefield, the Skaven army is really scattered right now. Most of the units are really tattered and away from the main engagement, and the real pocket of resistance is only over here. A bunch of Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers and Red Ogres are now bashing on top of some Spearmen, but with the two leaders of the Empire coming in to support, they should be able to hold the ground, and now just holding the Skaven units in place, dropping down Soul Fire Bombardment, taking away some HP, and with the lancing charge from these Empire Knights, Lances couch right in the backs of these Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers and Red Ogres, just sandwiching them between the spear wall, downhill charge from the Spearmen. They are now breaking, Assassins also breaking, leaving the Plague Priest alone in the surround of some Spearmen, and the two Hammer characters from Empire, Franz himself and his companion Warrior Priest. And yeah, this Empire Knight actually is still full health, so ready to deal with a lot of different units right now. Charging into the Storm Vermin with shields and sword, breaking them off. On the far side, Deathmaster Snitch scattered to the Empire Knights, and that basically spells the end of the battle as the Skaven army hit army losses. Alright, now let's have a look at the post-battle screen. For the Empire side, the absolute MVP of the game is definitely the Warrior Priest. Yes, he doesn't have much damage dealt, but the main thing is he provided a lot of buffs to Franz, giving him 44% damage resistance with the combination of Shield of Faith and the Scroll of Shielding, allowing him to stand his ground against two Assassins' Alpha Strike, preventing the Alpha Strike to be succeeded from the Skaven side. As you can see, the Skavens didn't really make much value even after beelining straight towards Franz, and actually engage in hand-to-hand combat against him with all the debuffs popped on him for like a good 20 seconds. Mainly because, well, all the damage were basically negated by the increased stats of Franz. Of course, there's also the Jade Wizard healing Franz, but yeah, without the support, the best support character in the game, I would dare say, Franz probably wouldn't have been able to survive. As for the state troops, they did okay, most of them, just basically holding back the hordes of Skaven troops and Death Runners and all that. Archers, this one got some fire into some naked Red Ogres, so there's that. This one did okay, got wrecked by 2 plague spells and escorted it off Snitch, so all in all, did a really decent job. And this one shutting down the Avalanche Mortars, shutting down the Native Bobo Sharpshooters, very solid, not even losing a single model because all the engagements were very favorable for them. Artillery wise, I could have done a much better job in protecting them. Sadly, this Death Runner definitely earned its value, cutting down both artillery crews, shutting down my range power. But other than that, this Plague Priest did a lot of damage with the Plague spells, but not enough to save the day. Skaven slaves, they're Skaven slaves, so not really much to say about them. Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers basically tanked a bunch of fire damage from the Sunmaker. Death Runners, other than this one who shut down the artillery crew, these guys didn't really do much because they just got slammed in the back by some Empire Knights. This Storm Vermin actually got 72 kills still, despite getting bombarded heavily by some Sunmaker fire. So actually, they could have been a very solid unit to just trash my front line, but thankfully I have the Sunmaker to shut them down. Artillery got shut down pretty early, other than this Native Bobo Sharpshooter, who did some damage on the Jade Wizard, but not, yeah, other than that, it was left unprotected and really didn't do much. Red Ogres also didn't really do much here. So that's basically it for today's video. I hope you like it, and if you do like it, please do like and subscribe the video, and if you have any thoughts about it, feel free to comment down below. I'll be sure to read it and reply. And yeah, that's basically it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.